Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Who Cares? We call it Who Cares because this is put on by Cares Foundation, a group, a team, and programs and everything all designed to show that, yes, we do care. So we're going to have here today Todd Lingel, who created Who Cares Foundation, or Who Cares, and with the Cares Foundation created in honor of Todd's deceased sister and mother. It's a combination of the names of Karen and Shelley. Karen being Todd's deceased mother, and Shelley being the late sister to Todd. And so we're all here in Todd's ambition and in his capacity prize that'll go out and around and save the lives of others in the legacy of his mom. And so come on in here and let's keep the show going. This is your show, affectionately called
Thank you, Kurt.
Who Cares? Oh, here we go. I double itch, so we're going to bring Todd in again. Here we go. Let's try it again. Round two.
All right.
Todd, what do you have for us today?
Thanks, Kurt. Well, hey, everybody. Again, it's Todd, Cares Foundation. My mom and my sister, again, were killed when I was 3 years old by a drunk driver. And we go around the country speaking to kids all over. And then we have camps called Camp Cares that we want to put on for kids that have been affected by drugs and alcohol, and then veterans kids have been affected by suicide. So on today's show, I have a really good friend of mine. I've gotten to know him a little better over the last month or two, and his name is Robert Frederick. And I'll tell you what, he is absolutely a phenomenal individual, a Navy veteran. And without further ado, I'm going to bring him on, and we're just get to know him. So Robert, come on in.
How do you do that?
There you are. So everybody, welcome, Rob. So Rob, I would like for you to just tell us a little bit about your background, that type of thing, and then why you chose to partner up with Cares Foundation. So it's all you. If I have any other questions, I'll kind of butt in and ask you. So go for it.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Todd. Thanks for the invite. And I apologize for my car. I've been working on a boat all day, so you caught me in transit headed home. I spent 22 years in the U.S. Navy. 20 of those were in the special boat teams operating high-speed assault craft on the water. And after retiring a year and a half ago, when you're in the military, you're put in a lot of leadership positions, and you're put in charge of a lot of people. And some of those people care a lot. Some of them kind of care. Some of them care, sort of care, and some of them just don't care. And no matter what, as the leader, you're expected to take charge of them and make all of them care and all of them awesome. And the reality is that a lot of them just don't, right? And so when I got out of the military, I decided I didn't know what I was going to do, where I was going to put the weight of my passion and my skills and network and all the things I'd gained in my global, I've been to 32 countries, 26 states, met a lot of people. And I was like, if I'm going to put all of that towards something, it's going to be something that does good for people, because I believe in that. And it has to be with people who care, because I'm tired of working. I get a choice now in my veteran life of who I get to work with and who I want to work with. And I spent 2 decades working with people who just didn't care. Like, couldn't get them to come to work, couldn't get them to take initiative, to follow up on tasks. They were a big time suck. And so I was like, if I'm going to work with people, they're going to have to be at my speed or better, care as much as I do or more, because I'm done trying to go around and make people care about stuff. Right. Absolutely. And then a friend of mine, Chad, that's when he introduced me to Todd. And Todd said, he's got this foundation. And I was like, well, obviously this guy cares, because he named the foundation Cares, right? I looked at his, website and everything, and I'm like, this guy's legit. Like, he really cares. He gets it, right? And that's why I decided to join and just help him build his organization and spread his message. I'm not a big social media person. I don't know anything about nonprofits, but we learn, we're adaptable. Like, I didn't know how to drive boats, shoot machine guns, fly drones, rappel out of helicopters either. But the Navy taught me all of those things, right? And I know that we can take the experience that I have and my friends have, like Michelle, my friend's spouse, and others who want to join that care, and help Todd blow this thing up and make it an organization that is up there with the prestige of Tunnel to Towers. That's my goal, is to help him achieve that height.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Rob. And for everybody who's watching, Rob and I met probably about 2 months ago now, 2.5 months ago, something like that. And through this gentleman named Chad, and Rob has come on as our president of my board, and then is running the operations. And so, Rob, tell us a little bit about when we talked about the camp and you talking to kids and kind of how you grew up and made that choice into the military.
Yeah, my buddy Brian and I were laughing about that, because we're like, well, yeah, I mean, I'd love to help you. So me and all my friends were troubled teens in our time. If you look at most special operations guys, or a lot of the combat arms branches of the military, your infantry people like that, especially pilots, right? We're just high strung alpha males, man. We're just like varsity football players that needed something to go take that rah energy into. And so a lot of us have troubled backgrounds. Like Brian and I were joking, we're like, well, if we didn't, we would have went to West Point, the Naval Academy, or the Air Force, right? the very fact that we enlisted in the Army, the Marine Corps, or the Navy means that, like, we were one of the bad ones growing up. But just because I had the tendency, to get in trouble, a lot of those are good, not getting in trouble, but what I think is you have to be bold, right? To do a job. That's why I think that, I said this before, I would have ended up in jail if I didn't go into the Navy with what I was doing. And then I'm like, I kind of was onto something, because most of us have a friend or multiple friends that did go to jail, right? We just made the fortunate decision at a young age to join the military. That was it, right? That's the only difference between us and them. And, or we would have ended up in jail. And so we get it, we know what it's like. I told Todd, I played sports my entire life. So when my last football game was over, my senior year of high school, that was the emptiest I ever felt, ever. Because I was like, I was no longer on a team. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have to, when you finish, football season the years prior, it's like you're right back to the off season, the 7-on-7, the workouts and stuff, getting ready for next year. So I found that locker room with the Navy, right? And now I'm at the point now in life where I don't need that rah male bravado locker room anymore. I just want to be with people. My locker room is people who are just people of purpose, that a passion, that want to do good and help people. And that comes from, I had an abnormal childhood, I guess you could say. And I did get in a lot of trouble. I was suspended from school. I can't even count how many times for fighting growing up. But on the flip side, I was also a straight A student. I made it into the National Honor Society, the National Junior Honor Society. And so I think there's a lot of kids out there. They're bright, right? They're good students and stuff. They just need somebody to point them in the right direction, to believe in them, right? And I had a mom and a dad to believe in me. So, like with Todd, I can't imagine what it'd been like not having that mom, that rock to believe. So, you know what? We believe in them, right? Like, hey, I can talk to these kids because I talk to them from a place of understanding, because I was once there doing worse probably than them. And the thing that terrifies me today that didn't terrify me then, if I could only get them one message, it's that the opportunities that I was risking with my behavior at 15, 17, 16 years old, I was risking opportunities if I got caught out there doing any of that stuff that I didn't even know existed at that point in life. But now I look back at 42 and I'm like, man, if I'd have got caught with coke or any of that stuff, maybe I probably wouldn't have got a top secret clearance. I wouldn't have made it to the senior levels in the special operations community, right? So little mistakes like that as a teenager can have long-term effects on you because it starts to shut down where you can go in life. Now you can't get a city or a state job because of that you're going to ping on the background investigation, right? You get a reckless driving ticket or a DUI, and now you can't be an 18-wheeler driver, right? Or any type of crane operator. These are high-paying industries, and when you start having these mistakes and picking up this baggage, they start shutting down all these opportunities to where you pigeonhole to where the only thing you're going to be able to do in life is work at a fast food restaurant or try to start a business, right? Borrowing money from families. That's the thing when I talk to my nieces and my nephew today is I'm like, that's what's so scary about it. Is I was ignorant to it then, so I didn't really know. But today it like makes my stomach turn when I think about the stuff I used to do, because I'm like, oh my God, all the things that I achieved in life, the places I've been, the people I met, none of that would ever happen if I was just got caught one night, being a dumbass in high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll pause there for comments, Todd.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is true. And I mean, for example, I had a friend of mine, he just turned 18. He was delivering pizzas for Pizza Hut, and he took the money he had and said he got robbed. Well, he ended up telling the truth, but he still has a felony on his record, and he's 18 years old, and he couldn't do things he wanted to do. And that's when I go in and I talk to these kids in group homes. I tell the kids, I said, you have an opportunity. All of us do. We have a chance to turn right and do something good, or make a choice to go left and do something bad. And I tell them it's unfortunate that they are so young that they have to make that choice now, but they can turn that and make that an advantage because they are younger. They can turn to the right and choose to do things, for the better. And kids that are out in back at home or still at home, they don't have that choice. They don't know what life's about yet. They're getting still spoon fed by their parents. Type of thing. We lost Rob for a second there. So we'll get him back in, but
I'm here now.
Okay. So I was just telling them about kids when I talk to them about in the group homes, taking a right or a left and doing something good or bad and making that choice. And so any kid that's out there, the more that we can talk, more than parents can talk to them and say, hey, you know what, these are choices. You make these choices, those things aren't going to be open for you later in life. And so that's one big key that we want to try to focus on at CARES Foundation as well, is when we talk to those kids to know that there could be, consequences, and there's consequences for every action that we have, good or bad. So Rob, would you take a little bit of time and tell us the time when your niece made a comment to you and you started changing your life?
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to keep my camera off because I think it works a little better with the connection, if that's okay. Did a nice little pretty picture of me right there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was 20-year drunk in the Navy. I was a senior chief in special operations. I was deploying as the troop chief, the senior enlisted advisor. So it was about 75 people, 6 boats going to 2 theaters that are worth it. The whole package is probably worth about $100 million worth of stuff, right? And so I'm in charge of all of that as the senior enlisted. And I was at the end of a pretty good drinking career too. And I was at my brother's house, and my niece was there. She was 13, Zoe, and she was going to go stay at her grandma's because all the commotion. I was trying to get her to stay, and she looked me in the face and she said, "You're drunk." And I mean, there was the disgust in her voice, because I was, to that point, her whole life, I was just nothing but this awesome Navy uncle that came around, took him to Disneyland, took him to Chuck E. Cheese, Build-A-Bear. And it was the first time. I mean, it was like an ice dagger through my heart, into my soul, when she said that to me. And I swore that night those kids would never see me drink again. I mean, she was right. I mean, she had me dead to rights. It was true. I was drunk. But, kids can change you, And I would come back from that deployment and go, that moment with my niece is what gave me the courage to finally just go into alcohol treatment in the Navy and just throw my hands up and say, I can't keep living both lives. It's just too much, you know? So
Right.
I did that in 2021. I mean, it hasn't been a perfect 4 years. It's October will be 4 years. It hasn't been perfect. There's been some slips and bumps, but they were short lived. And, you know, here I am today, and my niece is 17. She wants to get into podcasting and, you know, or just working with kids and influencing. And I thought, you know, what a perfect person to bring her and let her tell you her side of it, because, you know, she saw a lot of alcohol abuse and things like that just in her life growing up. But me, I think the best thing that people who struggle with drugs and alcohol, you know, there's so much shame that goes with it. But I found that if you're just open with your family about it, it not only it bring you closer together, but that's that's how you save the next generation from falling into your footsteps, is by being open and honest with them about it, right? And I'm open and honest with my nieces about everything, and I have a very close relationship with them and my nephew because of it. And I think that they've seen with their own eyes what alcohol can do to people. And, you know, if that keeps them away from drinking, even if it's just one of them, then, you know, great. Because there's such a pull to drinking, you know, it's
Right.
everywhere. It's in every gas station, every restaurant. And then, you know, I used to say, like, you've got all your standard US holidays with, you know, starting off with New Year's, and going from there, you've got all the college bowl games and the Super Bowl, and, you know, St. Patty's Day, Cinco de Mayo, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, you know, like pretty much October through the end of the year with Halloween bowl games. And so there's just a reason to drink all the time. And then the Navy throws in retirements, reenlistments, commissioning of ships, change of commands, memorials, you know, there's like reasons to drink 365 days a year when you're in the
Yeah.
military. So it's, you know, a lot of people fall victim to drinking in the military because they can't, you know, they can't do anything else, right?
Right.
And they don't want to. You're trapped because, especially in the elite uh, rates, like pilots, special operators, divers, PJs, people that competed and went through some sort of competitive selection to get there, like, they don't want to report, you know, what they're drinking, thinking, and doing, because they don't want to lose their clearance. They don't want to get pulled off the team, right? It's like Todd, you know, practicing all week to play on Friday night and then not going out for the game, right? And you're like, what?
Yeah.
No way. I'm not going to tell her about my ankle. I'm not trying to get pulled out of the game, right? Like, we
Right.
have
Yeah.
that same approach. And I think so. A lot of these young kids, they're just like us, right? They're competitive. They want to win. And the thing is, what I didn't realize till later in life that a lot of my friends agree with is that our true addiction is just to addiction. We've been addicted to everything since we were born, whether it
Yeah.
was Nintendo, Mario Kart, playing outside, you know, baseball, basketball. We've been the substance is irrelevant, right? They just gave us cooler and cooler stuff to get addicted to, right? It's like,
Yeah.
here's boats and machine guns, and you get to play with helicopters and jump out of planes. But it doesn't matter if you put alcohol, you know, cocaine, guns, freaking parachutes. Like, we're gonna get addicted to everything. So we're adrenaline junkies.
Yeah. Well, you know, I I can't say I know exactly what that is, but I know that I've had a couple of people that are recovering alcoholics that called me on my website, and you know, I didn't know a lot about that recovery process, and so I've actually been going to an AA meeting on Monday nights here in the Valley, and the gentleman actually allowing me to sit in and learn from them. And I'm telling you, what I'm learning in a 12-step program, I think everybody should have that. Whether they have an issue with alcohol or anything, they should go through that 12-step program. I think it should be in schools because it helps you just to deal with a lot of different situations in life. And it's crazy what as much as I've learned from that. And I'm continuing to go because it's just building me up and making me a better individual as well.
Yeah, but we're at a
Okay.
we're at a different phase in life that we're open to that kind of stuff, you know. And these kids, they're not interested in that kind of self-awareness. But real stories like yours and mine, you know, or my niece being like, yeah, he was a bad drunk. He's a much better uncle when he's not drunk.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll bet.
who knows? Like Kendra and I, my other niece, had lunch with a buddy of mine who's in the program in AA with us. And he's got two nephews that are 5 and 3. And now he sees this beautiful relationship that I have with my nieces. And, you know, and I'm like, wait, you can have that same relationship with do you realize that your nephews will never know a drunk uncle? And he'd never thought about that. He was like, oh man, I never thought about that. And I was like, yeah, this girl right here, she got to know a drunk uncle and now she knows a sober uncle. You have the ability right now, if you stay sober, that those kids will never know a drunk uncle. And you, like me, don't have children of our own. So we kind of live through our nieces and nephews. Like,
Yeah.
And that could be, you know, I was actually, I had a husband and a wife I was talking to, and the husband was considering quitting drinking. I was like, I told him the same thing. Your daughter could never know a drunk dad. And that was all he needed to hear. He's like, man, you just changed everything. Just that one sentence, right? So really, you just got to kind of meet people where they're at, you know. I think the young kids would listen more to stories like Zoe and Kendra and like what your story, Todd, you know. And if the parents are touched, then we'll talk to the parents about AA and a lot of that 12 steps of growth, because they're at a different place in life where that stuff actually lands, you know. I don't care about that stuff when we're 20. I'm like, I knew I was an alcoholic when I was 23 years old. I just didn't care. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, for sure. So I love what we've been talking about. I want to turn just a little bit and talk about, I know you and I talked about veteran suicide. And tell me about your idea that you got to thinking about that the younger veterans are the ones that are more likely to be committing suicide, and speak a little bit on that if you would.
Man, that's why what you're doing is so important, because I was already telling Chad this. He had did a data scrub for me and found that 67% of veteran suicide is in the age groups of 18 to 24. And then you look at my age group, it's 17%. And then I started thinking, I was like, well, it's their network, right? Like when I retire at 22 years, I know admirals, generals, mass chiefs, sergeant majors, my friends are all, you know, CEOs and COOs of companies, business owners and things like that. So when I get out, I can make a lot more happen with my phone and my network to find employment and meaning than if I was 23, 22 years old, because when I was that age, all I knew were other 23 and 22 year olds, right? Even if they had got out of the military, they're probably an entry level employee, right? They can't help me like the phone calls I can make today. And then here come your organization a month or two later after Chad and I are having this conversation. And I'm like, there you go. This is an opportunity to plug kids in with a network of support. Because if they're in Todd's network and I'm in Todd's network and Michelle's in Todd's network, that's all. Do you have any idea how many people that is? I bet it's over 1,000, right? That if you say you've got a kid that needs somebody to talk to in Houston, Texas, and I'm like, I got a guy in Houston, Texas, right? That we'll talk to him today if you want. And I was like, it's the network that I think if you were to dissect the suicide rates between those two categories, what you would find is a lack of a network. And I think, Todd, that's what you're providing people.
No, and that's a great point, and making what we talked before about the younger ages and groups, and I just have a question for you, because I don't know, but as you came out of the military, did the military at all like tie you in with someone that you could talk to, or are you just kind of, you're out there and you're on your own?
No, there's a lot of programs in special operations. We have a program called the Honor Foundation, and it's a 3-month gentleman's course on how to be a civilian. And it does a really good job of helping you, you know, with your resume, your LinkedIn, and getting you connected and things like that. So, but that's not available to everybody, right? What's available to the general military, which would be 99% of them, is a 2-day class where they just get a bunch of stuff they don't understand crammed down their throats. And they're, if Jesus came home for the second time, they'd be lucky to get a skill bridge approved, which is where they get to go intern with a company for a couple of months, non-paid, just to kind of learn the ropes on board. And then when they hit their terminal leave mark, which could be 1 to 3 months, then they can just transfer into an actual paid job there is the goal. So there's a lot of programs like that help. I did the Honor Foundation. That's what got me on the podcast, the Building Great Sales Teams podcast, which kind of got a lot of attention to that story I told, the book in the pen. And then they invited me back a year later. I did another one and told a story called Sniper in the Bush. And then after the show, the host was like, you should really start your own podcast. And I did that for a little bit. And then I pulled it down because I felt like I needed to do it with more clarity, more purpose, and just specifically focus on one problem like alcohol, drugs, and not veer and do all this other stuff. So I'm ready to relaunch another podcast at some point, and I want to call it Alignment, because after going through my psychedelic experience down in Mexico, one thing it kind of does, it just elevates you up to like the cosmic spheres and lets you look down on your life with incredible clarity and see where things are out of alignment with your relationships, your finances, your employment, like just everything. And in a business-like decision, kind of realign them. And one of the things that wasn't fitting was that podcast. And so I was like, I actually want to do a better podcast and call it Alignment. And I think, Todd, you would be a big help with that.
Yeah.
Right. And what I found is we can help these kids understand where they're out of alignment, and they can maybe make some subtle changes in their life that can help them. We've got a ton of tricks, man. I got dudes that got all kinds of tricks to help you simplify your busy brain in your life and actually get things done, because that's what the military taught us how to do. Essentially, it took all of our ADHD and it showed us how to put it in focus boxes and weaponize it to be very, very productive. And so for us, it doesn't matter what kind of problem you have, we can take that same approach and help you with, very similar to what you and I did when I joined you, Todd. And so to circle back, I did get the transition program. It did a lot for me, but at a certain point, you just got to spread your wings and fly, man. You got to go fly towards your calling and your purpose. And this was it for me.
And this is one thing we can develop is like you just said, the networking. Is maybe have in each state, maybe this is just throwing me out there. I get all these ideas, like, it's like maybe we have a number that they could call to where we have different people in every state that has a network that could talk to individuals. And it could go just endless on what we could do. And we're going to do a lot of things. I'm really super excited, everybody, for Rob being on. And then Rob brought in Michelle. It's going to help us with increasing our social media and marketing presence. And we're going to blow this up. We're going to have a great time. Kurt, that's been on, that introduced us, is a great guy, does a lot for veterans and disabled. And he's helped me a lot as well. I appreciate you, Kurt. I know you can hear me. And, it's our hearts are to help others. And it starts with these kids that we go talk with and the camp. And I want to specifically talk for the camp for just a minute. It's going to be called Camp Cares, and it's with a K. And the reason Cares, I'll kind of explain that a little bit, and Kurt touched on it earlier. Cares came about as my mom's name was Karen. That's where the Kare comes from. And my sister was Shelly. That's where the S is. And when I started this 3 years ago, I wanted to start where I grew up in Idaho. And I was able to actually find the first responder to my mom's wreck. And when I talked with her, she told me that my mom was giving my sister a hug, looked like she was giving her a hug when she died. So if you look at our CARES logo, you'll see that one leg of the K wraps around the other. And that's significant of when my mom passed away, giving my sister that hug. So that's a huge significance. And then the color blue is my mom's favorite color, my dad said. So that's where the CARES, Camp Cares, is with a K, K-A-M-P, then K-A-R-E-S. And what we want to do with these kids is have kids that have been affected by drugs and alcohol, or veterans' kids that have been affected by suicide. And we want to bring them up for a week-long camp out of Globe, Arizona for right now. We plan to take this across all 50 states or have them come to us. And we're just going to have a good time. And then every day we want to do kind of a get-together and talk about a specific topic like anger. We want to dive into what is anger and really go through that. And then go have some fun in the afternoon, come back with a group discussion on our topic that morning, and to really give these kids some tools that if they experience it, they know what to do. and build relationships. That's what our big thing is. I'm going to focus on there is building relationships with these kids so that if they need help, they can rely on somebody that they met at the camp. And then when we're done with the camp, we're going to come back in the valley and or wherever we're at, and we want to get back together every quarter with these kids, check in, say how you doing, those types of things. And we're in the hopes that these kids will help their peers. That's what the whole goal is, and then to help themselves as well. And so that's going to be the kind of nutshell Camp Cares. We have other programs going to be coming on, like Kids Life program, and that's basically life skills, those types of things. So that's kind of what we have going on at Cares Foundation, and we're right at our time limit. So I'll go ahead and kind of wrap this up a little bit. Rob, thank you so much for not only being a friend, being part of Cares Foundation. I look forward to getting to know you even more, and thank you for bringing on Michelle as well. And Kurt in the background, thank you for helping us out here and what you do for veterans and kids, and everybody online you're watching. I thank you so much. Go on carestoday.org is our website. Take a look at what we're doing. We're soon to have some merchandise up there, so you can buy t-shirts and those types of things coming soon. And we're doing a fundraising campaign right now. And my sister was 6 years old, my mom was 30, and they passed away in 1975. So if you could donate $6 on a monthly basis or $30 in memory of my mom and my sister, we would appreciate that. Here, June 14th, this coming June, is actually the 50th anniversary of when they passed. That's when I was 3 years old. So that just gave me away. I'm going to be 53. Oh, man. But everybody, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. And that's a wrap for Who Cares, hosted by Todd Lingel. See you next week.